every organization, every business, every team can be great if they have a great leader.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Good Life.
Welcome to everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Good Life Visual Audio Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, C. Muzan. I got Coach Kabi here in the building. Say what up, Coach.
What up, though? Well, I can't go so loud because apparently my sound cuts out when I let the voice ring because they want to silence me. They want to take me from here and bring me down here.
Okay.
What they want to do is go ahead and quiet my voice, but I'm going to let it ring.
Preach.
Go.
5 hours later.
And you already know I've been running. So I got this lung capacity back up. You know what I mean?
6 days in, 6 days
6
in.
days in, I'm feeling good. Running is no joke, man. I'll be real with you. Like I'm in there and I'm like, man, I should be getting better than I am. On the bike, easy, man. I honestly feel like I could bike 100 miles.
I believe it.
I honestly feel like I could bike 100 miles. The running, oh man, even the mile is still killing me. So it's not the distance. So what I'm doing here is I'm actually focusing on form. I'm breaking it down. So one day I might do 16 100-meter sprints, total a mile. Next day I might do, 400 or 200s, right? I'll do 8 200s. Then I might do 4 400s. The next day, then I might do 2 800s, and then I'll actually run the mile. And then I'll run the mile on a hill, and then I'll run the mile on the sand, and I keep switching it up, guys, because you want to keep the variables moving. Right? You want to keep the variables moving. It's not just go out and just, jog a full mile because you don't get better that way. You got to break it down and segment it out. So that's what I've been doing. It's actually been a lot of fun when I'm done. All right. It's a lot of fun when I'm done. In the mornings, it can be a little daunting. Unlike the bike where I just hop on, I'm cruising, man. So sure. Yeah, it's been good.
Listen, that's exciting, man. And kudos to you for continuing to practice what you preach and push yourself and push your limits and make sure that you are, again, doing the things that you tell people to do, right? That's a key to being a great coach, to being a great leader in general, is that we do what we say we're going to do. We do the things that we teach other people and tell them to do. And you embody that, brother. So nice job, man. I
appreciate it, man. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Absolutely. Because that running is no joke, man. I used to like, I've been along with you, right? Like we went through the steps together. Once you say you're running, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna go to this direction. So I started my spiritual journey. I'm like, I'm gonna sit down.
You started talking to God. he said, I'm gonna deepen my relationship with the Father.
I was like, I think this is where I need to be for this season. I'll let you run the hills and the sand, and I'm gonna sit here and talk to the higher power here. So
hey man, we might need to get you a pool, man, because I know you were fishing that water, bro. That might be the move for you.
That might be. I'm glad you said that. So right in my community, pickleball is a thing, and I've been hearing.
Wait. Let me correct you. In the world.
Listen,
pickleball is literally taking over the world.
It really is. It really is. And it happens to be that in my community, there's like some pickleball courts, and there's actually like a league, like a pickleball league. I think they're a little bit older, but it's a league. And I said that was going to be my fall winter activity. Right. So I'm going to get into pickleball, get out there 4 times a week, see as as often as I can get out there to see what that's like. But the reason why I was bringing this up is because I've never in the past been able to really stay consistent with running unless there was a sport involved, right? Unless it was a ball or, I played ultimate frisbee for a little bit, and that's nothing but running, but it's fun because it's something else outside of just running. But yeah, the running part of it, Man, that's tough. That was always my least favorite thing in conditioning, playing basketball, right? For these people out there, right? The corporate athletes, we come from athletic backgrounds anyway, played college basketball. That was always my least favorite thing, was conditioning, running sprints, running in college, we had these thing called ramps. We had a garage, and the way that it was set up, shout out to Jay Wu down in Miami. Our outdoor basketball court was at the top of the parking garage. So for training season, we would run ramps like up the whole entire garage and down the whole garage. And we would do that a bunch of times, and then we'd play ball at the top. That was my least favorite part of all of sports, right? It's just conditioning. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Mine too, by the way. So I played soccer, was my main sport. And we had obviously preseason the soccer, and soccer was pretty serious in my school. Like, our coach, shout out Jay Wood.
Hey, look at that.
All right. Yeah. And he was a serious guy. I mean, dude was an excellent athlete, phenomenal English scholar as well. Was actually played not squash. Yeah, played pro squash, and was apparently a legend in the game. I played squash at Princeton as well. So I mean, dude was on another level. And he took soccer very seriously. So he designed an entire preseason and multiple different evaluation processes that he would put us through. And folks think like, man, I was probably the top athlete, etc. I was, and but not insert. But I didn't get a ton of playing time. Right. So we would go through all these, we would do like one-on-one ball drills, like 6-7 different ball drills. We'll do like 6 different conditioning type sprints, long distance, shuttle runs, all of this stuff. But I hated that stuff. But one year I was like, man, I'm going to dominate. Right. And then he'll rank folks. Right. I was like, I'm going to dominate this. I would think I was one of the few ever, like in that whole entire program that came number 1 in both section, in the ball skills and in the conditioning drill. And it was terrible. More of the story is he still didn't give me a lot of playing time, and I was pissed, and I quit. And I came back, and it was a whole mess. And yeah, I'm still mad about that. I'm not gonna lie. I'm like, how am I gonna dominate your process and you don't reward me? Right? As a coach, that's like, you know what I'm saying? As a coach, to me, that's like, if you're going to set up a process and I dominate your process, I mean, number 1 by a mile in both processing, in both ball skills and conditioning drills, and you still don't reward me with playing time.
He just didn't like you.
What's going on?
He didn't like you.
Right. So, and this is, we'll talk about this, man, but this is my time to vent. All right. Listen, I think a lot of high school coaches, unfortunately, destroy athletes. They don't build athletes, right? So they might find an athlete who's already there and then take them the rest of the way, but very few actually make athletes, right? Very few actually create athletes, and very few actually give them like the proper coaching to improve things like how they eat. They have no idea. They're big boned themselves, right? How to breathe. Nobody ever taught me that. And I realize now in my running that is the number 1 limiting factor, is how I'm breathing. And 3, they don't teach you how to move and how to train. So, this is actually something that's really deep on my heart, or big on my heart, is to develop a program, right? A very simple program for youth athletics that will teach them these things. How to eat, not meal plans, etc., but how to think about food, right? So when they go to college, there's no freshman 15, etc. How to breathe, right? Because breathing is heavily tied to anxiety and mental health and mental clarity, right? Huge. And then how to move properly in such a way that not just for athletics, but to maintain their body over time, so it doesn't break down as soon as they're not training the way that they were training in athletics. And quite frankly, most people during the workout process, they're actually doing a lot of damage to the body. We believe that athletics, we should be, when we're heaving and like, throwing up. Oh man, I threw up like 3 times. He was working really hard. No, it means your body has built up so much acid and it's up that it's now expelling it. That's not a good thing. We should be breathing, correct breathing. If you're breathing correctly, you should never throw up during a hard workout. That should never be a thing, right? But you remember, bro, that was celebrated.
I threw up so much in practices that I thought I had a problem. I think I did.
That's breathing.
Yeah.
And I never threw up because I was like, nah, coach, no. I would stop.
So is it, let's dive in. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, this was going to be a sports episode anyway, so I'm glad that we're down this path. That's actually happened to me as an adult when I've overexerted myself or, gotten back on the court and right, bunch of running, and then I get this like I'm about to throw up. That's from my breath.
Yes. Yes. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is very important. And if you would like to dive in a lot deeper than I'll be able to dive in here on this episode, go ahead and pick up the book, Oxygen Advantage. And you can dive. I often reference these things because they're so rich in information, but it's hard to, spit it all out, right? So that's the reference point. That's what you want to pick up. Before you get to the point where your body has to expel that acid that has been created by overexerting yourself, right? One should stop and recover the breath. When you watch a marathon athlete, a long distance runner, right? They're not heaving.
Right.
And it's not because it's not only because they're in incredible shape, it's because they're breathing properly. Mm-hmm. So that acid that doesn't build up in their body the same way. So what we really should be doing is, and there's a couple different ways to do this. One of them is called just small breath holds, right? Which you can train whether or not you're actually in training at a high level. Now, best way to do it is train it while walking. While walking, you might do like a 5-second breath hold. Then you would do a 10-second release, pause, recover. And what that does is it builds up your body's ability to deal with carbon monoxide buildup. We believe that some way, somehow, we've been taught that we need more oxygen. We do not need more oxygen, right? There's plenty of oxygen in the blood. What we really need is to use the oxygen in the blood better, make it more bioavailable for the gas exchange to take place in our alveolus, right? If you remember your bio, if you look at the lungs, there's a gas exchange that takes place in those small air pockets, right? You're exchanging carbon dioxide for oxygen and oxygen for carbon monoxide. That process needs to be more efficient. That's how you get into better shape. When you push past that efficiency point by force, that's when your body gets to the point where it's heaving, where you feel like you're dying, right? Where you feel that horrible sense. So really, like anything else, it's progressive overload. It's strategically pushing that line, right? That line of which you are efficiently doing that exchange. And to do that, it's actually through breath holds. And this is why when you see kids who have like, issues like, Michael Phelps, right? What happens actually is that swimming forces you to do breath holds. It forces you to do that breathing pattern. So whereas in other sports, because we're not in water, right, we break all of those breathing rules, where swimming forces that. And what did he say? Like really helped with his mental clarity and all of that stuff. That's why, right? Because when you're there are periodic holds, you learn, right? You pop, 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 breathe, pop, 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 breathe, right? And I'm not a great swimmer, but at least I know that, right?
No,
that's what's happening.
That's huge, man. Like to that point, and I'm so glad we're talking about this because I think this will help me. It'll help a lot of people out there, but it'll help me. I had asthma as a child. At least I was diagnosed.
Oh yes, asthma. That's what it was. Yep.
Had asthma as a kid. I was probably in the hospital 3 times a year for an asthma attack, right?
Wow.
And I swam. I became a swimmer. My asthma went away.
There you go.
Just went away. And
Yep.
we didn't have my mom, a doctor, didn't have this language to explain why it went away. But this all makes perfect sense. I swam from 7 years old to 12 years old competitively. Then I played water polo in high school. And it's from things like that, right? From breath holds, from like the amount of time I would have to hold my breath, that this all makes sense. Like, oh, that's how I got myself out of it. But man, this is like full circle moment.
That's fantastic, man. I'm happy to hear that. See, a lot of things, and think about it this way. I often talk about this. A lot of things that we get wrong in the medical space is because we being Western thought, Western medicine, just honestly, just the Western way of looking at things. We refuse to acknowledge what the ancients have already known. We refuse to acknowledge what the let's say Chinese medicine has already known, right? Which is that there's always a yin and a yang. There's always two sides to a coin. What Western medicine does is it'll take one side and be like, oxygen is great, and we need more oxygen, and blah, blah, we don't have oxygen, that's why you can't breathe. Well, no. Everything in nature requires two sides to balance. Oxygen is important, but so is carbon monoxide. We demonize one and praise the other, so we think one is good and the other no. One cannot exist without the other. There is no daytime without nighttime. There is no moon without the sun. They have to work in unison. That's what creates natural balance. And when we take one side over the other and ignore the other, and we lead to issues, a misunderstanding of how things work, right? We need protein. Carbs are bad, right? They work together. What we should really be looking for is harmony between the two. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a great time for me to plug my book. Go ahead and pick up my book, right?
Talk about it.
Where I talk about, right, harmony in how we are consuming things. For most people, we're out of harmony in the Western world. We're out of harmony in one way, right? So what my book does is teaches you a process, right, in which we can restore harmony back in our mind, our body, and our spirit through food. There's other ways to do it. In fact, there's multiple ways to do it. Right, that's the one that I've experimented with extensively, and I've written about, and I lay out the entire process. And in fact, if you are in the Facebook group, right, if you're in the Facebook group and you message me or comment or leave something, I'll get you a copy for free. Right, I'll get you a copy for free only in the Facebook group. Only in the Facebook group, I'll get you a copy for free, and I'll actually ship you a copy. Because there's some pages in there that you're going to want to put on your fridge, right? There's some pages in there that you're going to want to copy and make sure you put on your wall. There's some pages in there that you want to grab and put on your mirror, right? So you are reminded, because this is a practice. It's not a meal plan. You're not getting a meal plan. You're getting a practice, a way to do things. So if you're on the Facebook group, go ahead and message me, do something. We'll definitely see it. Somebody will make sure we get to you, and we'll get you a copy of that book. And only in the Facebook group, I'll ship it out. Only in the Facebook group, I'll ship it out.
That's right. So Instagram, make sure you dive into the Facebook group. What's up, Dana? Good to see you. Go ahead and drop that a DM to us, and we'll get you into the Facebook group as well, so you can get that book, right? Because again, this is the type of stuff that we love to talk about. For those of you that have been religiously following us and right listening to these conversations and hopefully applying this information, you know that harmony, right, balance, these are things that we talk a lot about, right? That there is the yin and yang. It's not all one way or the other, right? We often joke around here. One of our favorite words is "it depends," right? Because it might be a little bit of this, it might be a little bit of that. For your situation, it's different, and this this is just another one of those examples of that. So yeah, pick up Khabib's book. Obviously, you know, he's got a ton of gems in there for you, but you got to be in the Facebook group to get that free copy. Make sure you're in the Facebook group because that is going to bless your life. Let's dive into the part of the show we call 2 by 2.
2 by 2.
That's right. Today we got a 2 by 2. Today was going to be a sports-filled show, but our 2 by 2 is a video. So sorry that you're live right now. Those of you that are catching us live, you're not going to be able to see it. But Ash, go ahead and cue it up on this side. This side. There we go. Cue it up over here. It might be over here, wherever it is. Cue up that video.
A 3-point shootout.
Push that shit. Push that hard.
10 seconds.
Oh, hell, man. Oh!
Yeah.
Because we just saw a video of our good old Detroit family, right? I don't know. It's a gentleman that's in Detroit, right?
We think he's in Detroit.
We think he's in Detroit at least. And he is not the greatest shooter of all time. He's not your Steph Curry. He actually misses. Did we count how many shots he misses in a row? Did we
It's
count?
got to be at least 15.
He misses 15 shots in a row, right? Just like from a 3-point rack, he's just shooting them. Misses about 15 in a row. Finally sinks the last one. And this is the story, the 2 by 2. It's a story of perseverance, right? What's your take on this?
Well, you know, this, ladies and gentlemen, family members, TGL folks, guys, this is why we love the city of Detroit. Okay. This is why Detroit, not Dallas, the Detroit Lions, the Detroit Pistons, right? Not Dallas Cowboys, right? Is America's team. Because as a city, as a whole city, they embody what America really is about. And that is perseverance, right? 15 straight shots. It might even be more, ladies and gentlemen. And the man keeps on shooting. The elbows all here. The elbows all here. I was never a baller, but goodness gracious, I know you got to tuck that elbow a little bit, man. But he didn't care. Right? He kept on going. Did he look like a fool? Yes, he did. But you know what? Perseverance, man. And you know what happened, ladies and gentlemen? You know what happened? My man kept going and he hit. Not just that he hit, it was all net. I heard the swoosh all the way over here in LA. I heard it. I felt it, right? The money ball, right? The money ball, he hit it. And this is what you should be showing your kids, right? You may fail every single time. You may fail 1 to 100, but 101, take your shot. Take your shot. Do the thing that you're willing to do. Do not fold up because people are looking at you and say, why is this man missing 15 shots and he's still shooting? Keep shooting. And look at Detroit for this example, because this is why we love Detroit. Shout out Detroit. And shout out Uncle Jalen. Uncle Jalen, we're coming to visit you. Jalen Rose Leadership Academy. Guys, hey, remember, right? If you can see on here, we got the shirts. The shirts are coming. The shirts are coming. And we're going to go ahead and make a donation out there to Jalen Rose Leadership Academy to go ahead and support the awesome students in Detroit, because Detroit is what America is all about.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. I appreciate that, Coach. That's a great that was a great motivational, inspirational message that you gave to the people there. Some of it is true. Some of it is true. Some of it is not.
Man.
Some of it is not. Now, listen, as a fellow hooper to this gentleman, right? For this gentleman, let me just say his form is completely off. It would behoove him to just go take some lessons, get somebody to just talk about the elbow, right? The elbow. That's all he needs, right? He's got to get that elbow in, right? And the follow through. That's it. But outside of that, you're right. The perseverance of this gentleman is huge. It's huge. How many of us can say we take 10 to 15 losses, misses, right? And we come back around and say, you know what? Number 16 is the one. How many of us say that? Not many of us. So kudos to this gentleman from the great city of Detroit for actually continuing to push through. But as a fellow hooper, he needs some work. He needs to really get in the gym a little bit more. And from one former athlete, or continued athlete, you want to start closer to the basket, not further away. He's a guy that probably should start with some layups. He should probably then work his way back to maybe a free throw and then pull himself back to that 3-point line. Not everyone is Steph Curry. Matter of fact, no one is, and especially this gentleman. But we applaud his heart. So shout out to the Hoopers in Detroit.
But you see, this is let's not overlook the true lesson here. Okay, let's not overlook the true lesson here, which is you can be in the stands commentating, or you can be on the court getting your game right like he was. Right? You can be in the stands chirping, oh my God, he's such a bad shooter. Oh my God, he's terrible. Right? Or you can get on the court and start playing. Nothing happens in the stands. In the stands, people are watching. They're drinking, high noon, right? They're eating popcorn and hot dogs on the court. That's where the game is, right? And that's where the real players are. And that's where he was working on his game, by the way. It's ugly now, but I'll bet you anything, it's going to be better. And also shout out, Ed Eats, man. We're trying to get you on the show, my brother. Ed Eats, go ahead and make sure you go ahead and schedule that. And let's get you on the show, my brother. What even come out to you?
We're discovering talent here on The Good Life. We have an eye for talent. And the first time I saw young Mr. Ed Eats, again, let's put something up here. So show this gentleman. I knew he was pure talent. I didn't know he was from the city of Detroit, but now it all makes sense.
It all makes sense.
Gotta have you on
one more thing for the city of Detroit here. I saw that T Grizzly, and also another Detroit great, right? Came out and was visiting I believe the grave, forget the rapper, but rapper passed not too long ago. Came out, made the trip to support, to the gravesite and support the brothers of the neighborhood, because he's just a good friend, right? This is what we're looking for. Detroit: perseverance, loyalty, compassion, ingenuity. These are the character traits we're looking for. And I just love to see it, man. I just love to see it.
Listen, on that T Grizzly tip, so to speak, I saw a clip. I'm not a video gamer. I don't really game. I don't stream. I don't do any of that stuff really at all. I don't even have Twitch. But I saw a clip and they said it was an old one. Do you know that T Grizzly started his own server, his own GTA server? Have you heard about this?
No.
Okay. So he has his own GTA server, which basically means you can create your world in GTA, and people come in and you can be anything in this world. You could be a worker at the local fast food place. You could just be a gangster. You could be a cop. You could be just a person that's a nurse. You could be anything. There was a clip that T Grizzly got arrested in this game, in this GTA server. He's in the back of a cop car pleading with the cop, hey man, I'll give you 500 million to let me go. 500 million to let me go. He's and the cop's I don't need that. But this is just another person on the server talking, right? It's I don't need that. He's driving. All of a sudden, T Grizzly's calling to all gangs. $1 billion to anybody who gets me out of here. I'm in the car. Calling all gangs. The whole hood came out. Everybody, the whole game. People just start swerving, hitting the cop car, pulling out guns on him, and somebody got the cop, pulled him out, and drove him off. And then the clip ends. But that server, he makes, God, I think he was on $1 million worth of game. He said this a long time ago. He's making upwards of $200,000 a month.
Wow.
Just playing a video game and being on the server, right? He turned that into a full-on business. He's not the only one that makes money off of streaming and Twitch and servers and stuff, but the fact that you can go from anything, right? Rapping, being in prison, the whole nine, to then coming out and figuring out, oh, I could make money on this server, right? The ingenuity of that gentleman and the other people that do that is key. You got to find that clip because it was hilarity. I saw it. They said it was pretty old, so I don't know. But that's my T Grizzly story.
Good for him.
Shout out.
For him.
Shout out. That's right. Ash, in this edit, we need the LeBron, the ball LeBron singing the T Grizzly first day out song or whatever.
Yeah.
Hit the Rolling Stone with the rollie on. Jag portfolio. So you long
We need that in here.
He doesn't do that as often anymore with this little whatever he does and debut songs and stuff.
Yeah, not so much. That was old LeBron, right? So
that was young LeBron.
That's what I mean. Yeah. Yes, understood. Anyways, let's dive in and talk really quickly as we get into technically what we wanted to talk about today on the show. Again, as I said, heavy sports episode. Again, being corporate athletes, talking to corporate athletes, talking to people that come from an athletic background. There's been a big story and big talks over this past week about the leadership of Coach Prime. Coach Prime. Those of you that haven't been paying attention to the sports world, Deion Sanders, aka Prime, right? Just became the head coach of Colorado this past season, or this year, right? This past summer. And they just had their first game versus TCU, who was the defending runners up, I guess, in college football, right? They were in the what's the bowl game called that they were in? Was it the championship?
Championship.
Yeah, championship bowl game or whatever. But they were the runner up, so they didn't win. But they were there. In Colorado, Coach Prime's first game as the head coach of Colorado, they come out and they beat TCU. Makes tons of headlines. Everybody's talking about it.
And it's important to point out that he took over a 1-11 Colorado team and went into the trade, pool, or right, the transfer portal, if you will, and basically, made a swift transition of the program to really take it to this level. I think it's important to mention that.
It's huge. That's huge, right? And the fact that he was able to take this unbelieving 1-10, 1-11 team, whatever it is, on their first game, not only get the crowd, the stadium, the fans, the alumni, all of them, including the players, to believe that they could win. He delivered a win. And if you looked at any of his post-game or pre-game messages, they were powerful. The thing that I took from it, and Coach, I'll throw this over to you because I know we can kind of go back and forth on it, but the angle I wanted to take and talk about was just the shift in culture and the leadership aspect, bringing in how important it is to bring in someone that can shift your culture, right? How do you go from a losing culture, because that's what it was, to automatically getting buy-in that this is a winning program? This is a winning culture. That takes real leadership. That takes real, I don't know, right? Like I don't even know what word to call it, but it's a quite the feat. What's your take on this whole Coach Prime thing? Like, give me your thoughts. I don't know what way you want to look at it, but that's kind of the first thing that pops into my mind is just, man, what a great leader that can come in and shift an entire organization's culture. And that's what a leader should do. But what's your take on it?
You know what? I think a few things here are very important to mention. When we look at the sport of football, what we see is a predominant is a base, right, of players that are predominantly Black players. However, the higher up you go in terms of leadership, And then definitely as you go into ownership, what you see is that there are fewer and fewer and fewer and fewer Black players. Right. And prime time, obviously, you know, we did an episode, and Himba will go ahead and link that episode here of the best athletes of all times, particularly the best two sport athletes of all time. And I believe prime time was on both of our lists, if not number one on our list, or at least I believe it was on mine. Well, if not, he really should have been. And so he's coming with a lot of respect, and not to overlook that he also stated that his calling, he's a very religious guy, and he believes that his calling from God is to mentor and coach up the youth, particularly obviously in this arena where he is a legend. Probably, no, not probably, he is the best corner of all time, and as we said, the best two-way athlete of all time. So he's coming with quite a bit of credibility. And usually when an athlete is performing at that level, or has performed at that Hall of Fame level, they struggle to be coaches, right? We see a lot of examples of this, right? Really, the better the athlete, the worse they are at coaching. They say, you know, they're impatient, or they can't do the things that, you know, Primetime had a lot of talent, right? He had a lot of talent. So coaching people with less talent, they get a little impatient and they're not that great. And we see that quite a bit. So he's coming into it, just to give folks the background. And he wasn't actually given an opportunity, even though he was so great. And this speaks to, again, you know, Black players, fewer Black coaches, and almost no Black owners that I know of, that I can remember. Maybe there's like a minority owner in the NFL somewhere, but very,
Denver.
very, very few. Denver?
I think it's Denver.
No, Denver's owned by Walmart family. So you know they ain't Black.
Then it's Detroit. Then it's something with a D. I'm pretty sure there's like a Black woman that's a part of the ownership group of, I think it might be Detroit. We got to fact check this.
Well, you know, shout out Detroit.
Yeah.
But the fact that we got to think so hard
right.
to find a minority, by minority, I mean they're not a majority owner of the team, is pretty unfortunate. And I believe it is same in the NBA, right? I think Michael Jordan, but he sold his stake, and he literally had to be Michael Jordan. Right. And not only that, he also, his first go around with the Washington Wizards didn't even work out. So he had to end up with the Bobcats or Charlotte, which we all know is not the top notch, if you will, organization out there. So I give this background. So there's a problem, or maybe not a problem, or that's just the layout. That's what it is. Right. So for a Black coach to come in, and the only opportunity he was given was in an HBCU, Jackson State University, where he took that program and turned it around with his son at quarterback, by the way, right? And this is critical as well. Speaking of leadership and father figures and all of these things that are typically not associated with Black men in particularly, here's Primetime demonstrating this at a very high level, right? A great athlete, a great father, right? A great leader, and now a great coach, right? So he turns his program around. He goes to his alma mater, right, FSU, and said, very interested in a job. They turned him away. They turned primetime Deion Sanders away from his alma mater after what he did at Jackson State University. Incredible. So he gets this opportunity at Colorado, which he catches a lot of flack for even taking. Makes no sense to me, but catches a lot of flack for even taking, because, oh, he should have stayed in the HBCU, blah, 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 blah. Why? Right? Crazy. So he goes into the portal, switches everything around. Not the first coach to do this, by the way, but again, catches a lot of criticism for doing this, right? Although if he was to turn around the program slowly, he would catch criticism for that as well. Yeah. All right, so it's important to give this background of all this criticism and all this back and forth and all this, like, you know, and Primetime is not exactly the most quiet individual out there. At all. He is known for trash talk. He's known for speaking his mind. He's known for being flamboyant right? He shows up with a gold chain and the Jerry curl. He shows up to the NFL combine or column, whatever the word is, and runs a 4.2 in his sweats, right? So dude has a certain, dare I say, swagger about him, for lack of a better word. So, and this can, I've seen this firsthand, right? As I talk to people about this situation, this can make a lot of people a little uncomfortable.
A little uncomfortable, a lot of uncomfortable.
A lot uncomfortable, right? And let's just say that those that are uncomfortable don't look like Deion Primetime. Sure. Okay. And I'm not saying there's anything beyond that. I'm just observing things. They don't look like Deion Primetime. Okay. In fact, on the radio today, or on the, I listen to a good amount of sports radio, just keep things go. It's kind of like, my wife watches reality shows. I listen to sports radio. So that's how it goes. I was listening today, First Take with Stephen A. Smith. And I believe it was Mad Dog, Chris Russo, Mad Dog, very legendary guy in New York radio, and says, I wish you would quiet down a little bit. I don't like all this, blah, 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 blah. Like, what?
Who did he say that to?
What are you talking about?
He said that about Deion?
Yes, he said that about Deion. He was saying that he's already had enough of all this rah going on, right? And I've heard several people say this, had a lot of this rah going on. He is the CEO of a team. His whole job is to drum up attention for this 1-11 team the quarterback, his son already broke the school passing record in the first game. They already got their first win against the number 2 ranked team in the nation. Why shouldn't he drum up attention? It literally sells tickets. It is his entire job to drum up attention. And not only did he drum up attention, but he also coached his players up to back it up. And then you're going to tell him to quiet down, put away the chains, sir, right? You're a coach, be more dignified, right? Ridiculous. Now, listen, if that's not your personality, that's not your personality. You don't need to go out there and fake it. But to tell, everybody knows what prime time is. I just think it's absolutely ridiculous. I want to give that background as we have this conversation, because it's very important to give the texture of a conversation. There's a lot of layers to this. Sure. There's money, there's race, there's socioeconomic status. There's a lot of things at play here in this situation. That's why we're talking about it today.
That's huge. That's huge. There is so much. And a lot of this stuff, in all honesty, again, parallels to things that you might do in business or see in your life as a corporate athlete, right? Again, I think of this so much on this leadership side of things. All those things that you just said that he's done, right? Comes in. Most importantly, he gives belief right away, but he brings attention. He brings attention to the organization. Well, in a marketing sense, right? For those of you that are out there talking about business, money follows attention. Money follows attention. No matter what organization you're in, no matter what sport, whatever business you're doing, if you don't have attention, it's tough for you to get the money that you need. If people don't know who you are, what you do, or what you stand for, it makes it really difficult to drum up what you need, right? And I saw an article that said that like Colorado didn't have the money to afford Deion. Like they could not even pay him what he was asking for. But whether it said they knew or he knew that the money would come, they made that agreement. And guess what? The money's coming. Just like that.
The money's coming. The money's coming. And what's really important, and a lot of people overlook this, is coaches, particularly college coaches, right? They're probably like one of their highest priorities is recruiting. Okay. So these coaches go into living rooms all across the United States of America, and they look in the eyes of parents and they make promises. I'm going to take care of your son or your daughter. I'm going to make sure that they do this. I'm going to make sure that this happens. I'm going to make sure that this happens. And a lot of times those things are lies.
Right.
right? Or they don't fulfill them. Maybe they intended to in the beginning, but they don't. All right, now it's a call
Selling them the dream, selling them the dream.
selling them the dream, right? So Deion goes out here and he actually does it. He actually does it. And right now what's happening, and I think a lot of people are nervous. A lot of people are nervous because here we have one of the best players of all time, has proven himself to be probably number one on the list of motivators of all time, one of the best tacticians of all time, taking over program after program, coaching his players, not just his players, 75% Black players, right, in his locker room, and taking them to levels they've never been before. If this guy walks into you, there's moms, I'm telling you right now, there's moms across the country who are looking at their sons like, you better call Colorado, right? Prime time comes here, you're going, right? So they're nervous because players are going to follow him.
Right.
Parents of the best players are going to feel more comfortable with him, right? And so I mean, listen, honestly, who knows what the season is going to look like? It may end up that this might be their only win. I don't know.
Right.
Nobody really knows. But if he does a decent job and turns his program around from 1-11, right? 1-11, and let's say they win 7 games, 8 games, that's a really successful season. And not just that. Now, who's watching Colorado football before Deion Prime Sanders got there?
Nobody.
Right? Nobody. And we all know that's where the money is. The money is in television. Okay.
Right.
So, and he's telling these players, listen, yes, you can get name, image, and likeness money. But what I want to do is get you that NFL bag. I want to get you to the next level so you can change your family's entire trajectory. All right.
Shout out to the
he's
NIL.
about to do that.
Absolutely is. But shout out to that NIL money because his son is at like $4 million of NIL money just because he's on the prime state, right? He's prime time now. Now he's right. Like he's on the stage and now these brands and all of these people, like, again, money follows attention. A great leader can understand and put their organization, their team in a position to win, in a position to get attention. The money follows that, and follow the money, right? Like that's what people are looking for. They look at, even though it's college sports, it's still entertainment, right? There's still money behind it. There's still a lot of that. And Deion came in and he understood that side, right? I think the future's bright for Colorado specifically because they found a great leader. Every organization, every business, every team can be great if they have a great leader.
Yes.
And I believe this is an example of that. I'm glad you kind of textured this conversation, right? Of all the backlash and all the conversations and all of the, some of it could be called microaggressions of just like, oh, you should calm that down or whatever the case is. But at the end of the day, leadership wins. That's what's going to play out. Forget all the other stuff. Deion came in, he instilled belief in an organization, he instilled belief in his team. They worked. Let's not bypass that. I'm sure this offseason was no joke. I haven't seen an interview from any of the Colorado players, but I would guess that this was not their favorite offseason, that this was not the offseason of laughs and fun and hanging out. This was, let's get to work, gentlemen, that type of offseason. But then they come out, first game of the season, make a big splash, attention's on them. Now it's up to them to perform. And when there's a great leader ahead of the troops and ahead of the team, good things can happen. So,
Absolutely. To speak of the leadership piece, I believe it's very important that we continue to highlight this, right? Very, very important. So Deion brings over the concept of there are no captains on my team. Right? There are no captains. We have leaders and we have dogs, right? We have leaders and we have dogs. Oh, man. I was listening to this man talk. I said, Coach, put me in. Coach, put me in.
Finding a helmet or red.
Right, Coach,
where's my helmet?
shoulder pads at? Coach, put me in. And you know what's so beautiful, man, is to see how this man coaches. See, he's all loud when it comes to the mic. He talks his talk and walks his walk when it comes to the mic and it comes to the public. But when you watch him on the sideline, this is where leadership really comes into play, man. All these coaches, they all buttoned up, right? When they're in front of the mic, right? They all Coach Saban, button up, right? But then watch a player make a mistake. What do? Chew out that player, call him all types of names, yell at him, right? Blah, blah, blah. Deion watched a player drop a critical ball, fumble, a critical fumble. The player walks over to the sideline, head down. And what's Deion Primetime Sanders do? Hugs him. Man, that's incredible to watch a coach of his caliber, a player of his caliber, right? Show that level of empathy, that level of love, that level of caring in a moment where that kid is probably beating himself up, where that kid wants to crawl into a hole, where that kid feels like a failure, where that kid feels like, man, I let my team down. Yeah. What does he do? He reaches down and picks that kid up. You see, culture really matters, man. Right. It really, really, really matters, because I think a lot of times what people don't realize is, we talk about relationships. That's how, who do you know? That's how it really gets them. But see, a lot of people fail to see, we just talk about the gradient, the color gradient, right? Mm-hmm. The higher you go, the wider it gets, the lower you go, the blacker it gets, right? Mm-hmm. So when you have people like this in places of leadership that understand that, and they understand that, students, athletes, players coming from this background, man, treat them differently. Yeah. Pick them up. They've been beat down their whole life. Pick them up. And forget even the background, pick them up. So he's loud to the media, but he's gentle with his players.
Full circle.
He lifts them up. He motivates them. Come on, man. Why are we not talking about that? Right? We don't hear too much of that going on, right? It's just, he's so loud, blah, 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 blah. Well, one, he's producing, right? So he can talk. I mean, last time I checked, if you produce, you can talk, right? You see Tom Brady on the sideline chewing out his offensive line, right? Throwing things around, acting a fool, acting like a 5-year-old, and he gets what? Praised. Because he gets in front of the mic and he's Tom Ford. He gets in front of the mic, he's buttoned up, right? But Deion gets in front of the mic and he talks his talk and walks his walk. And then he picks up his players and motivates them. And all we talk about is how loud he is. Oh, man. Hey. You know what I mean? Come on, y'all. Talk about his leadership. Talk about how you treating these players. We not talking about that? No? Come on, man. I mean, what do you think that is, bro?
I don't know what that is, man. Could be stereotype, could be just media hype, could be a lot. But again, this is why I said full circle moment, because what do we talk about that at the very beginning of the show? The yin and yang, the harmony, right? The harmony, that's it. You can be loud, you can bring attention, because all of that stuff, that's all it is, right? You can bring attention. I'm sure Prime is smart. He understands. The louder I get, the more people are going to want to cover this thing, the more they're going to have an opinion. He probably doesn't care about their opinion, like most leaders don't, right? Most leaders don't care about the opinions of other people. Their vision is so strong. They're stubborn on their vision. Now they're just going to go about executing it. Who cares what other people think? But he's got people talking. Look, we're talking. He's got people talking about him. He's got people looking at the organization. He's got people looking at his son. He's got people looking at the other players. And that's what matters. And again, all of this stuff parallels. All this stuff parallels, guys. Again, whatever you do for whatever leadership position you're in or you're trying to get to, take notes from things like this. How you present yourself to bring attention, to back up that attention, but then how you love on your people. Everyone's not motivated by throwing stuff at them and yelling at them and beating them up. And right. In all honesty, right. Some people are, especially some athletes, right. Some athletes that's what gets them going, right. My coach got in my face. I'm going to show him 10 touchdowns, right. It's like, okay, cool. That worked for you, right. That's great. But for others, they need a hug. They need a pat on the back. They need hey, it's going to be okay. Here's how we get better. They need that. Same thing in your organization, ladies and gentlemen. Same thing in any of the things that you do. The way you want to lead is not based on just you. It's based on your team. It's based on what the people in your team need, in your organization, what they need in order to achieve the goal.
That's right.
Sometimes it's a hug. Sometimes it's
right.
picking them up. Sometimes it's a little love and a little pat on the back. Sometimes it's strong leadership. Sometimes it's accountability. Sometimes, right? Like you have to figure that out as a leader, always having the pulse of your team. A great coach, I don't know who told me this, but they said a great coach always has the pulse of their team. They always know exactly like what's happening, what's going on with the players, who needs what when they need it. That is what Prime is doing over there. That's why I said it's right. Again, we could take so many notes from this. Like I could care less about the chatter because I know that's almost planned, right? That's almost like, oh, I know they're going to talk. It's Stephen A, right? We talk, right? Like he knows if I just say XYZ, if I go, like, I know that somebody's going to say something about it. I know we're going to get the attention, but can we back it up? Can we lift up our people? Now, ultimately, let's see what they do. Let's see what Colorado does for the year. Ultimately, can they go to a bowl game? Can they go from 1-11 to a bowl game? Can they win a championship? That's the ultimate mark. And I'm sure that's what he's talking about in the locker room.
Absolutely.
I'm sure that's the goal.
He's preaching greatness. He's preaching greatness. And, you know, I feel like even if they don't see a lot more success this year, these athletes have gotten more than they've probably ever gotten. Because he's not pulling, he's taking students and athletes, or just athletes that really not, let's be real. That's a conversation for another day.
Another day.
He's pulling students that weren't given an opportunity, right? That had no other option but to go to a particular school because none of the other schools were giving them a shot. And he's giving them a shot and he's motivating and elevating them, man. So everything else, in my opinion, is like gravy on top. Now, of course, there's going to be those that are going to show up and are going to rejoice, right? When Colorado loses, like Christopher Bruce, whatever his name is,
Chris Broussard.
Russo, not Chris Broussard, not Chris Broussard, Russo, yeah. Mad Dog, right? Yeah. I'm going to be rooting for blah, 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 the loser of the man. Listen, there's probably the biggest criticism I have for First Take out here. Stephen A. Smith, why you got this man on your show? Why you got this man on your show? You know what I mean? Yeah, I get it. He's a radio legend or whatever. But this dude is the one of the most flower of flowers. You know what I mean? I don't mean a flower that like roses, man. I mean like flower like you shouldn't be eating that. Right? You know what I mean? Like, goodness gracious, this man says some things on that show that I'm just like, what is going on right now? Why are we allowing this thing to happen? Okay, you're showing all your colors and it's all white. Okay, so stop this nonsense. All right, man, listen, that thing well, what did Peter Griffin, Family Guy, say? It grinds my gears. Right? Grinds my gears. Ridiculous. Prime time, Deion Sanders, talk your talk. Yes. Walk your walk. Elevate your players. Motivate your players. Display what it looks like for a Black man to be a great father, to be a great leader, to be a great coach, to be a great motivator, right? I love to see it because, quite frankly, we don't have enough examples of it.
That's right. That's right. Here's my final take. It's a quote that's hanging out in my head. Show me anything great. I'll show you a great leader behind it. All right. Show me anything great. Show you a great leader. I think we're watching greatness, right? We'll see how it plays out. But so far, the leadership traits are there. The way that he's coaching, the way that he's bringing attention, the way he's taking care of his players, like you said, him being a great father, motivator, inspirator, like the leadership traits are there. So we'll see what greatness looks like in this sense with Colorado. But we got some good stuff rolling. I want everybody that's listening, though, to take some stuff away from this conversation that Coach and I just had, specifically around leadership, because we're all leaders. You're all leaders, right? Like you lead someone. You lead yourself first. I think this is a John Maxwell thing, right? He says, first you got to lead yourself, then you can lead followers, then you can lead leaders. That's the way it goes, right? So even if you're not leading anybody, other people, you're leading yourself right now. You got to learn how to lead yourself. These are the same traits, the same things to learn that you can pick up from a Coach Prime. You can apply to yourself, to your life. Some of you are in a leadership position. Some of you are leading other followers, people in an organization, staff, whatever the case is. Well, pick up some of these leadership traits. How are you loving on your people? How are you encouraging your people? How are you picking your people up? How are you getting to the goal? Right? Those are things to think about in this leadership side of things. And then eventually there's some of you out there, the corporate athletes that are top of their game. You're leading other leaders. You got other leaders reporting to you. You got other leaders that are also hungry, that are learning from you how to be leaders, right? It's going to be interesting to see Coach Prime pop out some other coaches, right?
That's right.
That's going to be another interesting side. Okay, you're
Absolutely.
doing some great things with the players and the organization. Before you know it, some coaches are going to want to be around because they pop out and get a head coaching job because he plugs them in over somewhere else because they're learning things. Because eventually you lead leaders. So there's a lot of great things to pick up from this. But that's my final take. Show me anything great. I'll show you a great leader that's behind it. Finish this out, Coach.
Great take. And as a coach, I'm looking at Coach Prime and looking at some of the intangibles that he's displaying as a Black man in leadership, as a father, as a coach, obviously. And I'm taking notes. One of the I wouldn't say goals necessarily, of one of the things that I'm looking forward to at some point in my lifetime is being that sort of coach, right? It's going out there in Pee-wee, and probably not football, but in Pee-wee something and displaying that, right? And showing exactly what he's showing out there. So I'm very excited. And my last take here would be, I really appreciate what he says in terms of a lot of people have a lot of opinions, but your opinion of me is not my opinion of me, right? That's your opinion, not mine. Shout out Coach Prime.
That's
right?
good.
That's your opinion, not mine. Shout out Coach Prime.
Hey.
Okay? And we love it. See it. Ladies and gentlemen, guys, I appreciate you for joining this show. Make sure you join us in a Facebook group. DM me or message or comment a word book, right? And I'll know to get you that book. Free copy shipped out to you to make sure that it gets you right. And subscribe on YouTube. The two best places to find us, on YouTube and in our Facebook group. And keep joining us live here for the show. And until next time, thank you for your time. No, I gotta hit it. I gotta hit it. Thanks for your time. This time, until next time, prime time. Peace.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of The Good Life.
If you enjoy this episode, please take a moment to subscribe and like our channel.
If you have any feedback or suggestions for future episodes, please leave us a comment down below.
If you're listening to the podcast audio version, we appreciate you just as much. Thank you for tuning into The Good Life Show.
We believe that everyone has the potential to live their best life, and we hope our show helps you get that one step closer to achieving your goal.
If you know someone who would benefit from our show, please share it with them, and thank you for your continued support.
That's it for another week's episode here on The Good Life. We'll see you next week for another inspiring conversation.
Welcome to the good life.